I love this sport. I love it with everything in me. You know that.
Yes,
And
I do.
I'm of the belief that those of us that love it need to, be not gatekeepers is the wrong word because that implies some sort of exclusivity, but nourish this sport. I think it's so easy for people to get negative about what college football is and what it isn't. But I'm just here to tell you, I don't think that the sport has ever been better. I think that the parity at the top is something that we have not experienced since probably the 90s. And with an expanded 12-team playoff and the new conferences how they are, I think that we're about to have maybe one of the most exciting, memorable college football seasons in memory. And I could not be more excited about it. I really couldn't.
The 12-team playoff is something that I have just been yearning for. I could not wait for it. I think this is going to be the most important football season in the history of the sport because of it. You can lose a game now early, like Florida State just did, and win your conference and get back in. You're not out because you stumble. All that said, is 12 teams enough?
It's a good
Or is
question.
it too many?
Well, 12, the 12 toothpaste is out of the tube. So so it's not going back. So it's a moot point to talk about like, well, 8's the right number or whatever, 10's the right number, whatever it is. We have 12. So because that's what we have, remember the old adage, man, every year around this time is like, who are you? Where are you going? How are you going to get there? Yep. Well, we have to define who we are. Well, right now we're a sport that has a 12-team playoff. So where are we going? Well, we're going to a spot with imbalance. There's going to be more imbalance in the sport than what we've seen, in particular in recent memory. Namely, there are not 5 Power 5 conferences, and quite frankly, there are not 4 Power 4 conferences, power conferences. Really? There are 2. There is the SEC and there's the Big Ten. Then there's the group of 2 with the ACC and the Big 12. And then there's everybody else. And there's all the small schools after that. I know some people don't like that, but that's kind of where where we are. And so once you know that, you have to understand that like 12 is not going to be enough because, and I'm not saying this as an argument that I have. I see the tea leaves and you read what's going on and kind of talk with those that are in the know. The ACC and the Big 12 likely will only get 1 representative each in the 12-team format. The Big 12 is going to eat each other alive. The champion will get in. 1. That's right. They will not get a second. And to be honest, it's going to be hard to argue for a second. Think about it. Just play it out for a moment. There's 7, maybe 8 teams that could potentially win the Big 12 championship. That means that the team that loses the Big 12 championship likely will have at a minimum 3 total losses. At that point, you are in a fight, a narrative fight with a room full of 13 people with a team like Penn State, who might only have 1 loss, with Ole Miss, Missouri, Michigan. They're not going to win those arguments because of the schedule that those teams are going to play in the Power 2 conferences. Then you have the ACC. I just don't think that the ACC is strong enough, in particular after Georgia Tech's win over Florida State, to command a second team. So long answer to tell you, I think those teams and conferences are going to get 1 team each. At that point, they're going to clamor for a second spot and be like, well, how do we get more teams? How do we get more teams into this dance? And the Big Ten and the SEC are going to look at them and they say, the way you get more teams is by guaranteeing us more teams. So the SEC and the Big Ten are going to take 4 spots guaranteed off the top. And then they're going to say, now we're going to give you 2 more spots. Now we're going to guarantee you a couple more spots, which means we're going to move to 14, which means that only 2 teams are going to get a bye. Who are those teams? Guaranteed the Big Ten and the SEC champ are going to get the bye. Why do we have to go to 14 and not 16? Okay, well, Matt, it's actually really simple, and it has to do with economics. You guys had to pay the bills to start the show, right? Well, college football has got to pay the bills, and namely Tony Petitti out of the Big Ten and Greg Sankey out of the SEC, the 2 commissioners, they've got to pay the bills. one of the most valuable assets that those two gentlemen have to sell to networks is their conference championship game. If there's no bye, the conference championship game is totally moot and totally worthless because it doesn't mean anything. Those two teams are going to go to the playoff regardless. So they've got to tie a carrot to their conference championship game to retain its value so that they can sell it to networks for upwards of $40 or $45 million. Therefore, the Big Ten and the SEC still get a bye in that format with 14. And then here's what happens is we create more valuable inventory because each of those conferences at some point in the near future, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, are going to have what I would consider to be a play-in date. So conference championship Saturday, 1 and 2 will play each other in each of those two conferences. The winner gets a bye. The loser is still going to go to the playoff. Then the 3 seed and the 6 seed are going to play, and the 4 seed and the 5 seed are going to play. We're going to have a triple header in the SEC. We're going to have a triple header in the Big Ten. Winner goes to the playoff, loser goes home. That's how you get to 4 teams out of these each of those conferences.
That sounds kick-ass to me, bro. That just adds an extra week onto the playoffs.
Basically, yeah, basically it does. But it's always in the vein of value proposition. I know people don't like to hear that, but that's what's going to come. So who are we? Where are we going? And how are we going to get there? That's that equation. And that's how this will ultimately play out. There's only a couple of roadblocks to the scenario that I just said. One is that the SEC is going to have to negotiate for their 9th conference game with their television partners. That's ongoing and will likely work itself out.